Okay.
So this is the meeting of the Deconstruction Subcommittee, I guess, of Sustainability and Waste, SWAC. And it is February 26th. I'm Lynn Stoddard. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And here's Ted. Perfect. So Ginny, I got to pull up the agenda.
It's pretty simple. It's a meeting of approval, the August 28th meeting, which was the last time you guys met. And then discussing deconstruction strategy.
Okay. So I'll look. Hello, Ted. Can you hear us? Well, I will look for a motion to approve the August 2023 meeting minutes.
Okay, so done.
Thank you, Susanna. That's a first. Do we have a second? Thanks, Katie. Hello, Ted. We've got a motion seconded to approve the August 2023 meeting minutes. So we're going to call a vote. Okay, great. Good to see you. All in favor, raise their hand or say hello. Aye.
Aye.
Great, that's unanimous. So we don't need to do the nays or the abstentions. Perfect. Okay. And the next agenda item is progress update.
Deconstruction strategy.
Yes, deconstruction strategy. And do you want to lead us through that, Ginny?
Sure. First of all, I did have a conversation with the two bigger outlets of used building materials. It's Eco Building Bargains out of Springfield, Massachusetts, and then the Reconstruction Center, which is in New Britain. So what I asked both of them, do you have any workforce training? And neither of them do. But Eco Building Bargains, the Springfield facility, is a little more together than the Reconstruction Center. So I think they're interested in doing some kind of workforce training. Then we talked about if we in Mansfield, or let's say in the region, let's say there was, I did not talk to the town of Wyndham, by the way, but to see if there might be some collaboration. But if we in Mansfield started to collect materials from select contractors, contractors that wanted to participate, is that something that Eco Building Bargains would be interested in receiving the materials if we collected it, let's say, in a shipping container? And I was greeted with enthusiasm for the most part from a few people from Eco Building Bargains. And then I talked to the person who actually, I guess, approves materials at that facility. And she said, you know, as long as pictures are sent to me and they're pre-approved, then that's something that, yes, that could happen. So then I talked to the Reconstruction Center, and there's no paid staff there. It's just a board of directors. So it's all volunteer. It's open on Saturdays and Sundays. And so I talked to the president of the board, and he would love to work with the town. So he was very interested in if we collected materials. So some of the key things that were told to me about Eco Building Bargains is that there really needs to be somebody present to evaluate the materials that are coming in, to see if they are things that are not junk. That was the primary thing. It cannot be an attended place or container. Having a clear list of acceptable materials is important for contractors. And, probably a pilot would be the best thing. Work with certain contractors, like, I don't know, I'm throwing out a number. Work with 5 different contractors. And these are the materials we'll accept for this pilot, and then see how that goes. Make sure that the way the material is stored can be accessible. So if we were inviting people to come and look at the stuff that's there and take it before it goes off to Eco Building Bargains or the Reconstruction Center, we'd have to make sure that there isn't tripping hazard in the, wherever it is that we're storing it. And then provide a tax form for donation, which could probably be done through whichever organization we're working with. They'd probably provide a tax form. So that's the information I gathered. I took that as being a fairly positive response from both places. And then I also have the link to the local government policy guide that I sent to you, and I could share that, but first I didn't know if you wanted to comment on what I found from these two different locations, or do you want to just jump into the policy guide and look at different approaches that the town could take, and then tie in
Pause
what
for a minute. Yeah, let's take a pause for a minute and get people's feedback or questions. It's phenomenal what you did, Ginny. Thank you. Does anyone have any comments or questions or thoughts about what? Yeah, go ahead, Ted.
So reconstruction, they have no paid volunteers. They're open Saturday and Sunday to do what? Are they collecting or
both?
both?
Yeah.
So
They're an open store on Saturday and Sunday. Probably, depending on volunteer availability, they would receive materials possibly during the week. But, it's going to depend on who's available.
and where are they located?
In New Britain.
New Britain. And then the other eco building.
Bargains.
Yeah, eco building bargains. Where are they?
They're in Springfield,
Oh, that's the
Massachusetts.
Springfield one. Okay. And are they open on weekends or during the week or?
They're open during the week, and they have weekend hours also.
Okay.
So they're much more robust. The Reconstruction Center kind of, it's volunteer run, so it kind of limps along.
Yep. So I was just thinking if I'm in the area to, to visit and see what what they're doing, how they're doing it.
Yeah. And let's see.
I've been to the one in Springfield a number of times and bought used kitchen cabinets there, and windows and doors and things. It's great. It's got a big inventory and move stuff through quickly. So if you're doing any kind of project, it's great.
Ted, their address is 65 Burritt Street, Burritt. Oh, they're open on Fridays, 10 to 5. Saturdays 10 to 5, Sundays 12 to 5. So, okay.
Did anyone else have comments or thoughts?
My thinking is a little muddled. So,
Glad you're here.
yeah, I guess are we approaching this now? Well, I guess I'm wondering how are we writing any kind of town ordinance or anything like that, or is this all on a voluntary basis then of, you know, local people that they'll be made aware that there is a place if they have, you know, deconstruction materials, that they can drop them somewhere, and then, you know, the town, I guess, will take care of getting it to either New Britain or to Springfield? Or, I mean, this is a town-based approach, correct?
Well, there's some things to work out here, like staffing, like who would be the person that it would evaluate
Right.
what's there. You know, maybe before jumping into the weeds too much, we should look at that booklet that I passed on to you, because it does give some ideas of how to approach this and potentially first steps. I mean, if we were to start collecting things, we'd have to decide on a location. I went to Vinton School. Vinton School would not be a good place for people to drop stuff off. Not in the building itself, but if there were a spare shipping container, that could potentially work. But then who, you know, how is stuff dropped off? Who are they talking to?
Yep.
What are the hours? I would say if we were going to do this, we limited it to a certain number of interested contractors for a finite period of time. So it's really a test. How does this work? And then if you know, we were allowing people to look at what's in the container before it would be taken, the stuff would be taken to Eco Building Bargains. Again, I think that would also be a limited number of participants. Like, we would want to keep this small to just see, is this unwieldy?
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah, because you know, the materials you sent, and you know, the one from Cornell University and all the work that they did in gathering the information from the various sources, you know, most of them being pretty large towns or cities that, you know, have, I think, the manpower. I mean, the decision was made that they should do it, so then they, you know, they allocated the resources to it, I assume, you know, and then they developed their, you know, their planning and their you know, how they were going to approach it. And so I think we're in a little bit of a different situation here, you know, that we don't have a city or a big town or, you know, the resource. I mean, it would all have to be really from the ground up, you know, and the town itself, I don't know, you know, how interested the town of Mansfield, you know, is interested and might be willing to, you know, what input would they give us, and what would they provide, if anything. And based on whether the town would or wouldn't, you know, we would then structure, I guess, an alternative kind of approach. You know, like you said, you know, have a few, start on a very small scale and see if we can get even just one dumpster, you know, to fill with from a number of contractors, and that still would have to, I mean, we would need funding, I'm sure, to get that hauled away to either Springfield or New Britain. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of like, it was very interesting to really read all that information, but I had kind of a hard time linking it to our current situation here. You know, so I mean, it's a good thing to read and kind of build your system, but if you have to have all those other things in place beforehand too. So so I guess that's what I was thinking about today, and kind of struggling to see how we would proceed unless we have a, you know, some kind of idea about what the town's input is going to be, you know, how well, what are they willing to do. So I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys.
I think those are great points, Susanna. There's a lot to put together. It looks like Ginny's sharing the screen, so
Right.
yeah, Ginny, maybe you want to share a few more things to help us with this next part of the discussion and next steps.
Yeah, so this page has some things that a community might do. Like one of the first things is getting data from pre-building removal assessments to gain information on salvage and deconstruction potential. And so I thought, let's see, page 19 is the phased in approach. So maybe what we need to do is gain a better understanding of the community's waste stream, building waste stream, and collect information. And so that could potentially be the first step in all this. I mean, we did talk to a few contractors to get their input, which was, I thought, helpful. But actually looking at permits or getting permit data on waste, you know, what waste is coming out of projects, not just demolition, but projects where there's renovations being done. You know, are there any usable materials coming out of the renovations?
Yeah, well, I think the contractor that I talked to, you know, if there's, I mean, that the homeowners are usually not interested in, you know, being responsible to, but I know Chris Harkos, you know, said, you know, that he will take stuff, you know, if the homeowners don't want it, you know, he will take it if he feels it's usable, and either take it to Wayne or take it to, you know, Habitat for Humanity store or stuff like that, you know? So, because you're talking fairly, like, you know, saying a kitchen renovation or, you know, I mean, and, you know, relatively small jobs, I would think, you know? The interesting thing I thought too was in the information you send is that a lot of places that do this, they, you know, when it's residential, they established, like, you know, anything built before 1945 or 1910, you know, they had their rules were like, you know, that you can't just demolish, you know, you can't just do that, you know, then that needs to be, and then the next one was 1945, I believe, and I think a lot of them were aiming for the goal of pre-1960, you know, would have to abide by the rules. Anything beyond that, if it was my, my understanding on some of this was that, that wouldn't require. So it was, they designed their system by ages, and we're just kind of talking, encompassing everything, like any kind of, renovation project or anything like that.
Well, again, if we did it as a pilot, we could
Right.
say we're taking just kitchen cabinet, whatever. We could list a handful of things that seem to have generate a lot of waste and have high reuse potential. And yeah, like start slow with a few things. And maybe that's part of kind of getting some data of how much of this stuff is out there.
But you have done it yourself too, Lynn, right? On some of properties that you've redone and stuff. And you kind of done it on your own, taking whatever was usable, kitchen cabinets or whatever it might be, and then taking them up to Springfield. So I
We've
guess
actually done more of taking it away from Springfield, buying the stuff.
buying from Springfield.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, most of our construction in Mansfield, at least from my limited experience, seems to all be, people want the latest and the greatest and the newest thing, but that maybe people who
renovating apartments that students live in.
Right. Exactly. If you own properties, yeah.
Yeah.
True. I don't know.
So
I've
gathering might
waters now.
be one way to go. Further down the line is an ordinance or some kind of policy. Deconstruction contractor certification, expanding regional capacity. And then there's the let's see, the draft resolution. I mean, this might this might state the intention of the town to help kind of, okay, this is the intention and we're moving in this direction, which might help with then some changes like gathering information when somebody applies for a permit. So anyhow, is there a page on here that you guys would like me to jump to?
No, I mean, the thing you had before about, I printed out parts of it, so that the previous page, the collecting data, initiating community conversations, then, introduce incentives and regulations, but that's obviously further down the line. I guess maybe we should, I don't know, stick with like maybe working on developing a pilot and see what we learn from that in terms of, the possibilities.
Yeah. I was also thinking in the data piece, Ginny, can you remind us what the response was from the building department when you reached out? It was a while ago. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, not terribly interested.
Okay, yeah. I think we
Yeah,
asked you to come or something and I don't
it was
remember.
just like a no,
Okay.
you know, no discussion
Uh-huh.
times that might work. It was just like, no, I'm not available. Kind of like, no, I'm not available ever.
So,
Um,
yeah. Well, I
um,
wonder if we were to talk about what the simplest pilot might look like, just to dip our toes in the water. What might that look like? What do people think? I like Ginny's idea of a limited number of contractors. Makes sense.
Well, it seems like a pilot would need a place to put the stuff and somebody to organize and evaluate it, likely during the week when contractors are doing their thing. I'm just throwing that out as those things out as a guess.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we do not, I don't know that the transfer station would be, I mean, in a way, the transfer station would be a good place to have it because it's the transfer station.
Right.
But I just,
But they're only open 2 days during the week.
1.5 days a week, yeah,
Yeah, 1.5
So-
days a week.
yeah.
But I mean, it may be enough for a pilot.
I'm not sure how well I'll get buy-in for that.
You'll get
You know,
buy-in from the town and Public Works,
yeah,
you mean? Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
I think I would feel more comfortable in approaching the maintenance department and
Hmm.
asking them because Bill Treach works at Benton School. He has an office. I mean, you know, he's very busy. But there might, I think in talking to him, there could be some brainstorming that goes on, you know, like
Hmm.
there'd be this open dialogue. So yeah, I mean, I could approach the building department and with, you know, we'd like to collect data. And Ted, you had gone through the whole permitting
Yeah,
layout. And I don't think there's that information like waste information that we'd be looking for on the permit application, right?
yeah, that might be one way of adding a line to the permit process to kind of facilitate us snooping around. But it's something that needs I think needs an investment by not investment, that's not the right word, commitment by the person who's close to that data to always be, taking a few extra notes as issues
Yeah,
come by, opportunities come by.
yeah.
Well, here's
Um,
another thought, like we're talking about smallish contractors. We're not talking about the people,
Standard.
Hanging up at Four Corners or the big stuff, right? That's going up,
Right.
that they might be pulling something down. And those smaller places are probably self-hauling to the dump, right? I mean, maybe that's a data collection point. Kind of, I guess it would be called bulky waste, right? And the guys have to look in the truck to see what's coming in and how much to charge them. Maybe there's just some kind of casual surveying or something like that. Or is that wrong? Like where does that stuff go? How do people get rid of it now?
Well, I would think it would depend on the job, right? I mean, if it's a roofing job, they're gonna rent a roll-off container. It's gonna get hauled directly to by the company they contracted with.
Yeah,
If it's a renovation, let's say it's a kitchen renovation, they might still be renting a roll-off.
true.
And so it's going to,
Could that potentially go to the Casella building, you know, where? Because it's not gonna go to the transfer station.
Yeah, well,
right,
I don't
those
think
containers,
Casella rents
I guess,
dumpsters. You'd be, the
yeah, they do.
contractor would be using a dumpster company, even though
No,
Casella
no,
uses
Casella
dumpsters.
rents
Oh,
roll-offs.
they do? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they'd be one of the companies that compete for our contractors' dollars. And some of them would load up their pickup truck or trailer and bring it to the transfer station. And I would guess most of it would be bulky waste for a
Yeah.
kitchen demo. The bigger metal things like the sink and, if there's a storm door, they probably put that in dedicated metal, but
yeah, I would think unless it's a substantial job, you know, which then you would get the dumpster, you know, you would rent the dumpster from a dumpster company and they are the ones that haul it to wherever they haul it to. I don't really know, you know, if it's on their own place, but, you know, I think the very, very small jobs, you know, would probably, I would imagine the contractor, I can, you know, we can ask and say, you know, at which point do you order a dumpster for the job? You know, it would have to be, you know, you have to fill the dumpster because you're, you know, you're paying for the dumpster and you're paying for how long you have it. And so I would think that, and of course, they could pass the cost on to whoever the homeowner is that they're working for. You know, it's all part of the project. But I would think if it's small stuff, they either, if they think it's still usable, they take it home and use it on another job potentially, or you know, or just dump it at the transfer station in the appropriate container. But that's really, you know, small amounts of stuff, you know. So the bigger jobs is where, you know, where the dumpster comes in, and once you do the dumpster stuff, it all goes. It's not reused from the dumpster. Let's put it that way. I mean, I can remember that from the days when Bill was in construction, you know. Of course, he was always doing new construction, so it wasn't really, or maybe an addition or something like that, you know. So it was all new materials and, you know, so. A lot of angles to investigate, you know.
I'm wondering if Casella, you know, they have deeper staff than Willie Waste did, and people designated for sustainability and waste reduction stuff. I wonder if just a conversation with them, you know, you just kind of say, okay, but they're the biggest local hauler. So talk to them to see when demolition material comes into them, do they sort through it at all? They might. And I don't know, maybe there's some, I don't know if it would be called data, but some information on the types of stuff or where they might see opportunities. Like if we were going to do a small pilot and identify 4 or 5 things, they might have a sense of this is the stuff that's coming through here and we have to dispose of that could potentially be reused. I don't know. It could maybe a conversation there.
Yeah, I don't really know where Casella would take its dumpsters to get rid of the, you know, I don't know where they would go, where they go with the stuff. Obviously they go somewhere, but do you know, Jenny?
Yeah, it goes to, they have a sorting facility in Willimantic right next to the recycle facility. And they will pull out things like cardboard and wood that can be burned for energy and I don't, metal, you
Metal,
know.
I'm sure.
I mean, it's not like them recycling a whole host of things, but they are pulling those things out from the roll-off. And then the bulky waste gets landfilled in Ohio. So I think it goes by rail car to Ohio.
Okay, wow.
So I mean, I could ask them, would we be looking for just materials from Mansfield jobs so that we get a sense of what's happening in Mansfield? Or are you thinking like broader, like what's coming in regionally? I mean, what?
I mean, if they're able to kind of disaggregate to Mansfield, I think that'd be most useful to us, right? Because we want to start small, but I'd be happy to talk with them as well, Ginny, if you want to do it together or you want me to have a conversation. I've had a lot of conversation with Mark Morgan. Do you know
You
him?
do?
Yeah, I've had a lot
Yes.
of conversations with him.
Okay.
I mean, I think just kind of opening it up. This is what we're thinking about. What are you guys seeing? What thoughts do you have?
That sounds like a good idea.
I agree.
They could give their experience of what they're seeing.
And based on that information, then come back and discuss further amongst.
Well, maybe we
group.
need to have a few conversations going at once. I think the citing thing, if we really wanted to do a pilot and be collecting the stuff somewhere in town, that seems like probably a pretty big issue. And you mentioned transfer station may not be open to it. Maintenance might be. I mean, that, like, if we can't get an opportunity for that, I don't know. Transfer station seems so obvious to me, and maybe I'm being simplistic, but let's say there was at some point enough material to be attractive to the eco center or something. And they were even willing to pay for the hall. What difference is it then any of the recycling or sorting that happens there? I mean, it's all about collecting it properly and communicating it to the person with the materials, and then having a marketable material to get rid of with anything that goes through those gates. So similar exploration. Not saying that the money, the finances would work necessarily, but I don't know.
I think a small, I mean, I'm not volunteering to do this, but a small step in this direction would be to put a covered rack next to the metal dumpster so that you could put more stuff there. And it's got some cover so that, I mean, that wouldn't be damaged by water and snow. So if somebody had some 2x4s, they could chuck it in that as a so it would kind of self-regulate. Whereas if somebody with a couple of 2x4s now just throws them on the ground, but a rack would lend itself a little bit to being organized. But anyway, that's just an idea.
Yeah, I think it's got to be covered, right? Because you got to maintain the quality of the material.
Yeah, definitely for building materials.
Yeah, and if it's bigger stuff like cabinets, you actually need equipment. Like you can't dump it out of your dump truck into a shipping container and hope that it's not going to get ruined. It's complicated.
Yeah.
I think the one issue with the transfer station is that like we have a reuse area by the metal container at the transfer station, and residents want to put all kinds of stuff there, and then it becomes a policing issue for the staff and a point of conflict.
True.
So,
You have to
I mean,
the bouncers there. You have to go in and make sure they have to accept it, which makes sense. Otherwise, people dump junk in there and it
right.
degrades.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this would not be, well, some of it would be a non-issue if we had gone ahead with the renovations that we had talked about at the transfer station with a bigger swap shop building where stuff could be collected like this kind of stuff. But it, you know, probably not, you know, the building still wouldn't be big enough for a lot of building supply materials, but some. So I can bring it up with John, the Director of Public Works, and Brian Lavoie.
I
Yeah.
was going to say that maybe a little bit of signage next to the metal dumpster would help to say what's intended to go there and what doesn't. The sign just says take this stuff, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't give anybody an idea of what's expected to be there or where to put other stuff. just remind them that there's the swap shop and hopefully electronics reuse and et cetera. And, just see how that improves or the situation, if at all.
Yeah, if it were
So-
really small pilot, like a little space in
I
that building.
think, yeah, I think what might make sense is to have a conversation with Public Works staff. Maybe invite them to the next meeting to have a conversation about the possibilities, like what are the possibilities, but yeah, anyhow.
I mean, that would be a perfectly acceptable, sensible thing to do in, most situations. Just like we said, talk to the building inspectors about their ideas and about demolition. But that's all up to you. I'm not gonna.
Katie,
I agree. We definitely should get them into a meeting because I think I can understand their hesitancy to a point because they're thinking, oh, they're trying to dump more work on me. And so they're going to be a little resistant. We've got to be thinking outside the box of how, yeah, we're going to manage this and how it could help, wouldn't be a burden to our public works, the transfer station people, that type of thing. Because, yeah, I don't want to add any more work to them with the sense that they might not get paid for it. And, we need to think how we're going to man it and be able to, I think we need to talk with them and they can tell us what we're going to need to man it and whether we get a group of volunteers that goes in, every other one goes in, 1 week out of the month and stays there to do it, or somebody have a number that somebody would contact and say, okay, I'm bringing over I've just demolished this house and I have this, this, and this, and I'm going to be taking it to the transfer station. And then that person could coordinate or be the person to go over and meet them and be able to help sort it out. And I don't want to put it on Ginny either, because she's got enough to do. But it would probably have to be a volunteer base. And I think we could probably get people that would volunteer. If they've only got to volunteer like 2 or 3 hours a month, that's not too bad for something like this. And who knows, if it takes off, then we can talk about approaching town council about adding it to the budget.
thanks, Katie. Yeah, I think the other piece of it though is that there's money to be saved by the tip fee of carting this stuff out to Ohio. Right? I'm not sure all of that is passed on to the person who brings it to the transfer station. I don't imagine that all the costs are recovered by the town again. So this is heavy stuff at what, $100 a ton plus transportation to Ohio, it's like, it's expensive.
Mhm. Yeah, it's not quite $100 per ton,
Okay.
which actually I'm surprised it's not.
Mm.
Because everything else has gone through the roof. But it's not yet, but it's expensive. You're right. It is. It's got a big carbon footprint.
Mhm.
Um,
So it sounds like there's a few follow-up steps that Ginny and I can talk to Costello and just get some input from them, learn what we can. If you're willing, Ginny, or if you would like me as the chair to reach out to DPW and ask if someone might be willing to come to a future meeting with this group and hear our concerns and brainstorm on possible pilot projects or eventual solutions. Is there anything else?
yeah, I can ask about attending a next meeting.
Okay.
If you want to talk to Mark or
Okay. Do you want to talk to him with me or should I just reach out to him?
you can just reach out to him.
Okay.
Yeah. And then do we still want to see if the building department will discuss this also? Is that something?
I mean, I kind of feel like we need to go where doors are open right now. And
Yeah,
we knock on the closed doors later on when we have some other people in our corner with us.
Okay.
I don't really have interest in fighting battles with people who are not interested in talking. Sorry.
yeah, no,
All
no,
due respect.
I do understand, so, okay. All right,
Does that make sense to everyone else?
Yeah.
But Ginny, thank you so much for all this information and talking to those two centers, because it does feel like there are some options for us. We just have to figure out a couple of the other pieces.
yeah, yeah, it does, so. All right,
All right. Are there any other questions or final items before we adjourn?
next meeting date.
Next meeting date. Yes, let's do that now rather than having to rely on emails. It seems like, Ted, how did this work for you time-wise? I think it's the trickiest for you.
6 o'clock is good.
Okay. Monday nights generally good?
Yep.
I think for Katie, it's the fourth Monday, right? Of the month, that is good, Katie? Yeah, okay. So that would
Yes,
be.
that's good.
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
predict when things will happen. Like I missed last week's SWAC meeting because of an interview, so just this is good when it's available.
Okay. So, would the fourth Monday of March work, March 25th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Yeah, let's try for that.
all right.
Awesome. Then we thank everyone for your time and our continued good wishes to you, Katie and Al.
He's
Yeah,
doing fantastic.
so glad to hear it. Give him our best. And
I will.
thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ginny.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
All right.